Okay, so Perplexity AI, it's this incredibly powerful tool that's been making huge waves. But it begs the question, right? Who's actually behind it? Who owns this thing? Well, we're going to dig in and find out. When a new tech darling pops up like this, your mind immediately goes to the big guys, doesn't it? You're thinking, okay, did Google secretly buy it? Or maybe Amazon? Wait, is it an OpenAI project? It's a totally natural assumption to make. But you'd be wrong. Dead wrong, actually. Nope, this isn't another case of a tech giant just gobbling up the competition. The real story here is, well, it's way more interesting. It's a classic Silicon Valley story, and that's what makes it so cool. All right, so let's start with that simple question. We've busted the myth that it's just another tech giant acquisition. Now we get to dive into what's really going on.
So here's the key term you need to know. Perplexity is privately held. What does that mean? Well, unlike, say, Apple or Google, you can't just hop onto your brokerage account and buy shares of Perplexity stock. Its ownership is private, split between a few key groups: the founders who started it, the employees working there, and the investors who've put money into it. It's not a one-man show, it's a shared pie.
Okay, so how do we break down these owner groups? The best way to picture it is like a layer cake, seriously. Each layer represents a different group of owners, and they all stack up to make the whole company. Let's break down that cake. First, you've got the base layer, the foundation. Those are the founders. Then, in the middle, you have the filling. That's the employees. Many of them get stock options, so they own a piece too. And finally, you've got the icing on top. That's the investors, the money that helps the whole thing look good and get bigger. So let's talk about that base layer. Who are these founders? We're talking about Aravind Srinivasan, Dennis Yaratz, Johnny Ho, and Andy Konwinski. These are the folks who dreamed this whole thing up. They built the foundation, and you can bet they hold a really meaningful chunk of the company. All right, now for that delicious icing on top, the investors. Look, for a startup to grow into a giant, it needs cash, lots with it. And they get that by selling off small pieces of the company to investors. And because of a recent funding round, we actually know who some of these big names are. And wow, just look at this list. It is literally a who's who of Silicon Valley and big tech. You've got IVP as the lead investor, which is a huge deal, but then you've got NVIDIA, Databricks, and yeah, that's Jeff Bezos, as in the Jeff Bezos. When you see names like this ponying up cash, it tells you one thing: some of the smartest people in the room are betting big on Perplexity. So what kind of money are we talking about? Well, this most recent funding round valued the company at $520 million. That's over $500 million. A number like that is why you see all those heavy hitters getting involved. It's a massive vote of confidence. Okay, this next part is maybe the most important concept to grasp in this whole thing, and it's this: owning a piece of the company is not the same thing as controlling the company. Owning a slice of the pizza doesn't mean you get to decide the toppings. Let's break that down. Ownership. That's your financial stake. It's passive. You own a piece, you hope it grows in value. But control, that's active. That's governance, influence, having a say in what happens next. It's the difference between just owning a slice of the company and actually getting to vote on what goes on it. And this is so important. Just think about it. Jeff Bezos has a stake, right? But that doesn't mean he's showing up to meetings and telling the engineers what to do. He has ownership, not day-to-day control. And honestly, that's exactly how startups are designed to work. It allows founders to raise a ton of money without giving away the steering wheel and losing their original vision. So if just owning shares doesn't give you control, what does? Well, it comes down to a few key things: getting a seat on the board of directors, being in an executive leadership role, or having special investor rights written into your contract. For instance, the lead investor, IVP, they didn't just cut a check. Part of their deal was getting a board seat. That gives them a real voice in the company's future. That is control. Which brings us to our final point here. We know who the players are, but we don't know the exact score. You can't just Google who owns what percentage of Perplexity and get a neat little chart. And there's a very simple reason why. Because it's a private company, its ownership breakdown, what's called a capitalization table or cap table, is completely confidential. So this chart gives you the right idea of the groups involved, but don't take the percentages literally. Those exact numbers are only known by the people inside the company. So we know the who, just not the exact how much. So let's circle back to our original question. Who owns Perplexity AI? The answer is there's no one single owner. There's no overlord. The absolute best way to think about it is this: it's owned by a whole crowd of people, founders, employees, investors, and they all have different sized slices of the pizza. But, and this is the key, only a very small group of them actually gets to vote on the toppings. And understanding that difference between owning a slice and choosing the toppings, that's everything.